Have you ever wondered what the world would look like if one of the greatest empires in history had never fallen? Imagine a world where Alexander the Great's vast kingdom, stretching from Greece to India, didn't shatter into pieces after his death. What if his empire survived? Let's dive into this incredible alternate history. The year is 323 BC. Alexander the Great, at the pinnacle of his power, lies dying in Babylon. In our history, his final words, "To the strongest," plunged his empire into 50 years of brutal civil war, known as the Wars of the Diadochi. His generals, men like Ptolemy, Seleucus, and Antigonus, tore his legacy apart, carving out their own kingdoms. But what if things had gone differently? Let's imagine our first alternate scenario. Alexander lives. He recovers from his illness, perhaps a bout of malaria or typhoid, and rises from his deathbed. What's his next move? His eyes were always on the horizon. His generals were already weary of constant campaigning, but Alexander's ambition was boundless. His next logical target, the Arabian Peninsula. Controlling its lucrative incense trade routes would have poured even more wealth into his coffers. After securing Arabia, he would have likely turned his attention west, towards Carthage and the burgeoning Roman Republic. A clash between Alexander's battle-hardened Macedonian phalanx and the disciplined Roman legions would have been a spectacle for the ages. While Rome was formidable, it's highly probable that Alexander's tactical genius and experienced army would have prevailed. He wouldn't have just conquered, he would have integrated. Imagine Rome becoming another great Hellenistic city, its culture infused with Greek philosophy, art, and science. The Punic Wars might never have happened, and the Mediterranean would have become a Greek lake centuries before the Romans called it Mare Nostrum. But let's explore a more plausible scenario. Alexander still dies, but he names a clear successor. What if, instead of his ambiguous final words, he had clearly designated his loyal general, Perdiccas, as regent for his unborn son, Alexander IV? With a clear chain of command, the infighting among the generals might have been averted. Perdiccas, acting as a steward, could have held the empire together, preserving it until the young heir came of age. Under this united rule, the process of Hellenization, the spread of Greek culture, would have accelerated dramatically. Instead of fragmented kingdoms, each with their own agenda, a single, unified administration would have standardized language, law, and trade across 3 continents. Greek would have become the undisputed universal language from the Adriatic Sea to the Indus River. Cities like Alexandria in Egypt would not be the exception, but the rule. We would see dozens of new Alexandrias spring up, centers of learning and commerce, spreading Greek knowledge deep into Asia and Africa. This cultural fusion would have been extraordinary. The rich philosophies of India could have blended with Greek thought centuries earlier. Buddhist teachings might have found their way into the philosophical schools of Athens, while Greek logic and science could have spurred a renaissance in the East. Imagine Indian mathematicians and Greek astronomers working side by side in the great library of a united Alexandria, sharing knowledge and pushing the boundaries of human understanding. The scientific revolution might have occurred 1,000 years ahead of schedule. A stable, unified empire would have also created unprecedented economic prosperity. A single currency and the absence of internal borders would have created a massive free trade zone. The Silk Road would have been secured and expanded, connecting the Mediterranean world directly to the heart of Asia without rival intermediaries. Goods, ideas, and people would have flowed freely, creating a level of global interconnectedness not seen until the modern era. The wealth generated would have funded massive infrastructure projects, roads, aqueducts, and canals, uniting the empire even further. So, what would be the long-term consequences? The rise of the Parthian and later the Sasanian empires in Persia might have been prevented. A strong Hellenistic eastern frontier could have held its ground, changing the entire geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. Perhaps the Roman Empire, if it still managed to form, would have been a purely Western European power, constantly vying with the colossal Greco-Macedonian Empire to its east. The great East-West divide that has defined so much of world history might have been drawn along a completely different line. The development of religions would also be profoundly affected. Would Christianity have risen to prominence in the same way? A dominant, unified Hellenistic culture with its pantheon of gods and philosophical traditions might have been a much harder environment for a new monotheistic faith to take root and spread. Similarly, the later rise of Islam might have followed a different path, encountering a powerful, unified Hellenistic state rather than the fractured Byzantine and Sasanian empires. Of course, this is all speculation. Holding such a vast and diverse empire together would have been a monumental task. Internal rebellions, succession crises, and external threats would have been constant challenges. Perhaps the empire's collapse was inevitable, a natural consequence of its sheer size and the clashing ambitions of powerful men. Maybe it would have eventually fractured along cultural or geographic lines anyway. But the what if is tantalizing. The survival of Alexander's empire could have created a world where Greek culture remained the dominant force for centuries, accelerating scientific progress and creating a more interconnected ancient world. The familiar histories of Rome, Persia, and the great monotheistic religions might have been completely rewritten. It's a powerful reminder of how the actions of a single individual and the events of a few chaotic years can shape the destiny of the world for millennia to come. The world we know was built on the ruins of Alexander's dream. What do you think? Could the empire have survived? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for journeying with me through this alternate timeline. If you enjoyed this exploration, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more dives into history's greatest what-ifs. See you next time.